If you are short-term in your focus, you probably don't want to spend too much time investing in Palantir. Palantir's attitude is refreshing. It's exactly how we invest. We want our companies to invest aggressively. We don't want profits now. We want them to invest aggressively because we're moving into many winner-take-most markets.
Lately, Cathie Woods from Ark Invest has been loading the boat with Palantir stock, and now her firm, Ark Invest, actually owns over 10 million shares of Palantir stock. Palantir's management has a long-term mindset, and this really resonates with Cathie Woods. They are spending a ton of money today to build up those technological moats and strengthen those customer relationships so that they can eventually catch, as Cathie Woods says, a very large wave. Today, on 9 to 5 Investing, I'm going to explore what makes Cathie Woods so bullish on Palantir's stock, and then after that, I'm going to reveal to you a very clear catalyst for Palantir's stock price that is actually just around the corner.
9 to 5 Investing.
In a recent CNBC interview, Cathie Woods actually revealed a key tenet of her investment strategy during market corrections and market crashes. Essentially, if the stock market starts crashing, Cathie Woods sells off her most speculative plays, her lower conviction type of stocks, and she takes her firm's capital and basically reallocates that capital to her highest conviction stocks. These top tier, highest conviction type of stocks include most famously Tesla, but in addition to Tesla, we actually have Palantir making this list as well. Now, I actually can really appreciate this strategy from Cathie Woods because no matter how bearish the stock market gets, an investor can just simply sleep better at night knowing that their money is parked in the companies that they have the highest conviction in. If you can eliminate that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or as a lot of people like to call it, FUD, from your investing psyche, then it will make your investing experience much more enjoyable, and I highly recommend trying to take this approach. Now, am I surprised that Cathie Woods has Palantir stock on her list of high conviction long-term buys? Not at all. Palantir has a ridiculous amount of bullish fundamental characteristics going for it long term. I do, however, want to talk about something that Cathie Woods said in the CNBC interview that really stuck out to me.
Revenues are still 61% government, but I've learned, and I think most people in the innovation space have learned over time, that some of the most important innovations in our lifetimes have started in the government, especially in the defense sector and in the intelligence sector. So we think in many ways, and they won't talk about how, but they're certainly garnering a lot of business, which tells us that they are seeing in the future and investing in the future in ways that companies, governments, but increasingly companies are going to need.
Cathie Woods points out that some of the most important innovations in her lifetime have actually started as projects within the United States government. More specifically, projects within the defense or intelligence agencies. And in my personal opinion, Cathie Woods is 100% correct about this observation. Just take a second and think about what is the most significant innovation within the last 50 years or so that has completely changed the way the world works. In my personal opinion, and leave a comment below if you have a different opinion on this, but I think it's the internet. Guess what, 9 to 5 gang? The internet actually was started as a US Department of Defense project that was designed with the sole purpose, it was called ARPANET by the way, but it was designed with the sole purpose of allowing government agencies to disseminate information in case the United States was attacked by the Soviet Union with nuclear weapons. ARPANET stands for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, and it was originally only accessible by those organizations that had contracts with the US Department of Defense and other governmental agencies. Eventually, the government made some changes to ARPANET so that it would be available to the general public, and that became the very primitive version of the internet that we use today. By the way, if you are new here, if you are new to 9 to 5 investing, Thanks for being here. If you want to hit that mouth-watering subscribe button, then I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel and it's free to do. When analyzing the fundamental strength behind Palantir stock as an investment, there is a clear weakness, and that clear weakness was brought up by Cathie Woods herself. The weakness is that about 61% of their revenue is actually derived from government contracts. However, the trend is positive. The trend is towards a more diverse mix of corporate and government contracts. And it's definitely worth pointing out that the strong demand from the United States government for Palantir software and services really helps Palantir build their reputation. If the United States government is spending millions upon millions of dollars every year on Palantir software and services, then corporations are going to look at this situation and they're going to be less hesitant to sign major deals with Palantir themselves. I mean, it already seems like Palantir's reputation has been built up enough to gain some major corporate customers, because at the time of recording this video, Palantir already has a lot of notable corporate customers, including Fiat Chrysler, Airbus, Morgan Stanley, and BP. And just as a side note, anyone remember BP, British Petroleum? They are actually responsible for the largest oil spill in history. Well, consequently, British Petroleum is trying to clean up their corporate image, so they have an ambitious goal, kind of ambitious, I guess, to go zero emissions by 2050, and Palantir has actually been commissioned with helping them achieve this goal through taking multiple sources of data from BP's systems and basically synthesizing it to determine how they can actually become zero emissions without cutting too much into their profit margins. And I believe Palantir software is catching on very quickly. Just to prove my point, they actually had a press release when I was planning this video that they have a new 6-year partnership with a French automotive supplier called Faurecia to help Faurecia basically go zero emissions as well. So clearly, corporations are catching on one by one about how much value Palantir's software and services can actually bring them. So as time goes on, it seems like they're going to be less and less dependent on just having government contracts for their revenue. And the reason this is significant is because at any time it could be for political reasons, it could be for just out of randomness, they could lose those government contracts. It's unlikely because it doesn't really seem like there are viable suitors for those contracts at this time. But then again, a lot of them are secretive. We don't know a lot about some of these contracts. So it is very nice to see Palantir diversifying their revenue sources. Cathie Woods says that Palantir's long-term mindset, investing into their business to build those ridiculous competitive moats. I want to revisit that topic because Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, had some really interesting things to say on the last earnings call. That earnings call was for 2020, by the way. So I'm going to play an excerpt of Alex Karp speaking about Palantir's long-term focus and why this is important. And I'm just gonna play some drone footage from a trip I took to Iceland in 2019, because that's honestly a lot more engaging than just a black screen or just a still image of Alex Karp.
And now, as we've had a pretty sublime year based on any conventional metric, and as you've seen the results, we want to underscore this relentless focus, what you could call an inside secret, what should be a banality of business, of a long-term focus on the health of what we believe is and will continue to be one of and will become the most important software business in the world. And to do that, we're providing long-term guidance, pretty radical in the sense that we are committing to keeping a growth threshold of above 30% for the next 5 years, but not focused on the day-to-day, quarter-to-quarter, near-term focus that quite frankly destroys businesses. Is one of the main reasons why so many of our businesses, especially in tech, are actually only serving Wall Street and not serving their clients and not serving everyday investor, and generate suboptimal returns over time because they too are a lagging indicator of the suboptimal performance, near-term myopicism of running a business. And at Palantir, obviously, we have rejected this in every way, both from the way we've produced software, from the way we interact with clients, from the bets we've made that tend to be bets that come to fruition years after very, very significant investment. In any case, we hope those of you on this call who are current investors stay with us. And those of you who prefer a more short-term focus, that you choose companies that are more appropriate for you.
Honestly, the last part of that excerpt where Alex Karp basically tells short-term investors they can just take a hike. He does not care if they buy his stock or not. Alex Karp is really just focused on the long-term health and growth of Palantir's business, which is exactly what I like to see in a CEO. I really personally believe that Palantir stock is something that you just buy and then you forget about for the next 10 to 20 years, and then you come back and you see your investment 10x. It's that type of company. You don't want to trade this company, you probably just want to hold it. I listened to Palantir's entire 2020 earnings call so that you don't have to, and I pulled out the key financial figures that they talked about. So here are some key metrics that should really make you excited about the trajectory of Palantir's business over the next 5 years or so. From 2019 to 2020, Palantir saw a growth of 41% in year-over-year average annual revenue per customer. Palantir is collecting an average of $7.9 million from each customer each year. So this growth of 41% is incredible because it really demonstrates the value that Palantir is providing to its customers, because Palantir gets in there, they get comfortable with their clients, and then their clients test the services and they decide they want more. I mean, 41%, that's profound. Palantir's overall revenue growth rate from 2019 to 2020 is actually 47%. And they actually signed in the fourth quarter of 2020 alone 21 deals worth $5 million or more. Now, the other side of this equation that is not ideal for Palantir is that they are actually overall losing money. Their expenses are exceeding their revenues. But I am okay with this because Palantir is building a business. They're trying to build competitive moats that are so dramatic that it will be almost impossible for competitors to eat their lunch. So they did discuss Palantir's margins on the conference call. I'm not gonna get into them here though, because it gets really kind of sticky. You can talk about net profit margin, operating margin, and gross margin. But I will tell you that the margins seem to be trending in the right direction. I believe if Palantir wanted to be overall profitable for fiscal year 2021, they could be. But they are not focused on profitability so quickly. They're focused on spending more money now, basically investing in those tall competitive moats and those really rock solid customer relationships. So they're building the long-term business rather than just being focused on being profitable right out the gate of them having their direct listing. So what is likely to be the next massive catalyst for Palantir's stock price? So it is impossible to know for sure what the next catalyst for Palantir stock could be, because there could be some major contract just randomly announced. Like today, we actually already had, as I mentioned earlier, that French automotive supplier contract announcement. But a very likely candidate for a next major catalyst for Palantir's stock price is going to be the double-click demo event that Palantir announced earlier this week. This double-click event will simply give Palantir the opportunity to demonstrate how their platforms operate in different industries and with different clients. The actual event will take place on April 14th, 2021. Now, normally, I would not put too much weight into a demo that Palantir is hosting. However, earlier this year, in late January actually, Palantir did have another similar type of demo event, and this sent the stock on an absolute moon mission. This event was called the Inaugural Demo Day. It took place on the 26th of January. And it basically just gave Palantir the opportunity to showcase some of the most recent developments to their platforms, including Gotham, Foundry, and Apollo. And whether this run in Palantir's stock price from about $26 per share to a high of $45 per share was actually based on the demo or the advancements of the platform shown at that demonstration, or if it was just randomness, it's really completely unclear to me. But one thing is for certain, I'm going to be paying attention to this next demo day to see if there is a similar type of action in Palantir's stock price. Remember, it is very likely that simply the anticipation of this double click demo day is going to cause a rise in Palantir's stock price. However, you have to remember the other side of this. A lot of the times, if there is news, for example, the news being, whatever is unveiled at this demonstration event, then a lot of the times if the news is not incredibly impressive, then the stock will actually sell off. This mantra is called sell the news. It happens all the frickin' time, including on that last demo day. The stock actually crashed after the demo day was over. So I tell you this sell the news pattern just to kind of warn you to be careful. If you are trading in this stock rather than investing in it, you definitely want to watch out, because if nothing major is announced on that double click demo day, it is very likely, especially if the stock price dramatically rises from now until then, that the stock price will actually crash after the demonstration is over. I really wouldn't recommend trading the stock. I genuinely believe, I'm not sure exactly what the right price is right now, but I genuinely believe if you are going to invest in Palantir stock, this is totally a set it and forget it type of investment. Check it in 10 years and it's probably gonna be worth multiples of what it is today. If you are still watching at this point, thank you so much for supporting the channel by watching the video all the way through. Helps a lot actually. And also thanks in general just for taking a part of your day to hear me ramble about Palantir stock.